Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring the Talengarde adventure board game. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review featuring this classic fantasy style adventure board game that is somewhat difficult to obtain, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to talk about the cards of the game. Talengarde comes with several hundred cards divided into decks, being the brown deck, containing adventurers, encounters, avatars, mounts, automatons or automata, equipment cards, which are the gray deck, which concerns armory, apothecary, ships, artifacts, and then we have the blue deck, which is all about information, spells, quests, and oracles. So it's pretty basic. You have beings, equipment, and information. All beings have an ability table on the card for reference. This concerns their individual statistics, or stats. The name of the card appears in the upper left corner. The skill level and designation code are in the upper right corner. Card information appears in the left box, starting with the ability table at the top. The four abilities are Strength, Speed, Spirit, and Vitality. For each ability there is a base score, an offensive skill, and a defensive skill. That's why you have BOD, that is base, offensive, and defensive. Listed next are any bonuses the card may have, and special abilities. Finally, the starting equipment or gold value is listed. Not all of the cards have abilities, not all of them have starting equipment, and some of the skills and abilities listed on the card are a bit wonky. Sometimes you need to read things a few times to make sense of the ability or the skill or the power. For example, there is an undead creature, the Wraith, that has a base strength of 0. But then it says uses spirit power with melee hit. So you need to kind of figure out that spirit power means base spirit. And other abilities are a bit more obscure. Some other effects are a bit hard to figure out. You need to read the rules or compare things with other cards so that it makes sense. And although some of the codes in the upper right area of the card are pretty self-explanatory, for example, if you have a P, that's a pious character. If you have a U, that's an undead character. Sometimes you have to look things up in the rules and terminology section at the back of the rulebook. Now let's talk about the abilities, classifications, and scores. As explained earlier, you have Strength, Speed, Spirit, and Vitality. Base strength is used to check severity of or resistance to attacks. When it comes to strength offense, this is used to determine hit skill in hand-to-hand combat. When it comes to strength defense, it is used to determine parrying and evasion in hand-to-hand combat. Concerning speed, base speed is used to determine max distance one can travel in one turn and is used for initiative. Speed offense is used to determine hit skill with thrown or ranged weapons. Speed defense is used to determine dodge ability, used only if not engaged in hand-to-hand combat. Base spirit is used to determine power or resistance to spells or willpower. Spirit offense is used to determine hit skill with offensive spells, and spirit defense is used to determine skill in avoiding magical attacks. Base vitality is used to show influence and popularity. It is also the number of initial gold. Vitality offense is used as the number of initial lives, which could be considered as hit points when you are using that particular being as your hero. But when the creature or being in the card is being used as an encounter or a companion, Vitality defense determines the number of initial lives. Most cards are placed face up in front of each person so that all players can see them, but information cards are secret and may be kept face down by the owner. To keep the cards organized and easily accessible, a tray is included in the box with slots for each category of cards, but as I mentioned in the first part of this review series, that tray is pretty much useless because the cards get a bit ruined when you insert them. They are too tight. The holes are a bit too small, and the thin cardboard tray itself is very fragile. The cards should be separated into the various decks before play begins. You will also need space for the discard piles, one for each category. When a deck is depleted, its discard pile may be shuffled and reused. And this concludes this part of the review. In the next part we are going to talk about selecting a hero, playing pieces and starting positions. Concerning cards, there are a couple of negative aspects to Talengarde. First, many of the effects, the weapons that some enemies have equipped, all sorts of particulars related to quests, all sorts of events and encounters, they are linked to a specific card. So when you encounter an enemy and it says that that enemy is armed with this or that, you need to look through the different decks to see if you can find the weapon that the enemy is carrying. If you run out of that particular card because all of the other players have that card equipped in their characters or their allies or companions, then you have to decide if the enemy comes without that weapon, or perhaps you decide to use one of the cards that is already equipped as a sort of representative weapon for that enemy, and so forth. When it comes to spells, perhaps some other miscellaneous things, you have to look through all of the decks, or rather the specific decks from that category, to see if you can find such a card, and that puts a bit of a pause on the game. So turns in those situations could take a bit longer. The other negative aspect is, as I said, some of the codes and the information, they could be a bit wonky. Some of them could be quite easy to understand, but some others will require you to search through the rulebook for the pertinent information, or perhaps look for other cards that are similar to make sense of things. But when you get the ball running, when you fall into your group, the cards are pretty exciting and amazing because of the old school art. It feels as if you are playing Might and Magic, or perhaps Dragon, and you can get amazed because of some swingy moments. Sometimes a player that is down on his or her luck encounters an artifact, or perhaps a companion or a spell that is potentially overpowered, and now that player is the major threat of the game. Thank you for watching this part of the review, and thank you for your likes and your comments. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.